Welcome. Today we are going to talk about Demisto Enterprise and AWS integration. Demisto integrates with number of different AWS services like EC2, S3, Guard Duty, STS Token Service, SQS, and many other services. Demisto's integration with AWS helps customers integrate their security functions, whether they are for on-premise tools like their endpoint security tools or their network security tools, and the AWS security functions like Guard Duty combined into a unified response framework. The integration between Demisto Enterprise and AWS is performed as a keyless automation, which basically means that you do not need to provide keys or passwords for your AWS account to Demisto to perform response or enrichment actions. And the third big value that Demisto delivers after integrating with AWS is being able to ingest alerts from your cloud environments and then being able to trigger automated response workflows and hence orchestrating your entire cloud security posture. Let's see how it works. Demisto is able to consume alerts from Amazon Guard Duty or SQS. Just like the prior integrations with different SIM tools, the alerts that are detected by Guard Duty or SQS are created as incidents or alerts in Demisto. At that point of time, any of the services that are integrated with AWS, and here we show a sample of services that are integrated, could be used for either further enrichment or response. Each of these services provide different set of actions. These could be starting or stopping a VM or a AMI from Amazon EC2, being able to delete a bucket from S3, being able to create a bucket, fetching or getting details about VPC rules, being able to modify or get details about security groups that the AMI is launched in. And these are just some examples of different actions that could be used from any of these integrated services. At the same time, Demisto can also take the alerts from Guard Duty and SQS and enrich from any of your on-premise security tools as well that are previously integrated with Demisto. Let's see how the keyless automation works being a key value prop. Demisto uses the AWS IAM and role services and the integration with STS, which is the simple token service, to able to automate all security actions across services without needing the key for AWS services or AWS account. The way it works is Demisto, either the server itself or the Demisto engine, which is configured with the integration, will be configured in your Amazon account with the right set of privileges. And whenever a service requires an action, whether an automation action is for enrichment or response, Demisto goes requests a security token from IAM. Once the token comes back, Demisto or the Demisto engine can assume the role using the STS, gets a security token, then it goes ahead, returns the security token to the Demisto. We use the token to perform whatever the relevant action is, whether it is an action like shutting down, starting a VM, or whether it is doing an action on S3 for a bucket related operation or a guard duty fetch and numerous different actions. And after that action is done, the signature is validated by AWS services with the same IAM account, and the action is performed completely successfully. So this is a quick view of how the keyless automation work. Again, to reemphasize, the key value prop is you don't need to provide the keys and services for your AWS account to Demisto to perform any of those automations. So let's see this in a live demo in action. In the demo today, we are not going to go to any of the basics of the Demisto enterprise itself. So if you have not seen a Demisto demo before or really not familiar with Demisto concepts, I would recommend watching some of the other YouTube videos. We're going to focus more on the AWS specific integration and demos. So let's actually start by looking at how easy it is to configure an AWS instance or an AWS account here. So when you search for AWS in our integration screen right here, you see all the different AWS integrations that are supported. And configuring these integrations is extremely straightforward. You go in, you provide it an instance name, things like ARN. So as we mentioned earlier when we were showing the slides, that Demisto does not require any of the keys or the passwords to be configured. We use the IAM role and ARN to be able to go perform all the operations without keys. This is super important from a security standpoint. So here is the role ARN that is provided that you can get from your AWS console very easily, and the session name. And with these two simple things, you can configure IAM integration. Similarly, if you look at the guard duty integration, pretty much similar parameters. In case of guard duty, another parameters is the default region in case you have multiple regions configured in your AWS account. And this is how easy it is to configure an integration. Once AWS integrations with the relevant services are configured, you can go ahead and start building any of the playbooks. Today we're going to look at this specific playbook, which is just create a demo instance or create a new instance of Demisto as a sample playbook. The integrations could be used to build any of your custom playbooks, very much like any other Demisto playbook. So for example, you search for AWS here, all the actions for each of these services is available. You can hit add, provided the parameters, and go configure. So pretty straightforward and very similar to any other integration that is there and how you build the playbooks in Demisto. If you look at the specific playbook scenario that has been built, what we have is we start by collecting relevant information for deploying our new instance. So getting VPC information, and for this we actually use an EC2 integration to describe VPCs, that's the API, and get details about VPC. And after you get the details about VPC, you create a security group. So you create a new demo security group, and then go ahead and add security group ingress rules for HTTPS and SSH. This is just because our demo instance that we are setting up requires inbound SSH and inbound HTTPS. Then we are able to allocate Elastic IP, get the domain information, get the latest CentOS AMI. We go ahead and then create an instance using the EC2 API, which is run instance, and then wait until instance is ready. So here we go in and wait and check whether the instance is ready or not. And after it's ready, then we associate Elastic IP address with that instance that we have created, create a Route 53 domain record with Elastic for the Elastic IP, and that's it. This is where we create it, and then this is a confirm block for tearing down the same instance. So we will see when we run this playbook that after this whole thing is created, we can even shut it down, because you might have scenarios where you start the instance at a later stage. So you can actually take the second part of the playbook and clone it and go ahead and create your tear down playbook as well. So very straightforward scenario, but shows the power of Demisto AWS integration to be able to launch new instances. So let's close this and let's actually go ahead and create a new incident and run this playbook. So I'm going to say new incident, create a new demo instance, and the type we are choosing is AWS create instance, and we need to give it an instance name in this scenario. So let's give it an instance name, demo recording. And I'm going to go ahead and create this new instance. So let's see, when you create this new incident, what you start to see is this particular instance is created. So here is our incident that we just created. Let's see actually and jump to the playbook run that has happened and see how automatically Demisto created the instance. So let's run through the playbook quickly. Zoom out a little. So the first step was get the VPC information. Using the EC2 API, we were able to get VPC details. Then after getting the VPC details, we said create a new security group. So this is the new security group that was just created, and you get the group ID back. Then you add HTTP rule. The security and group rule was created and added. Then we go ahead, add an SSH rule. We go ahead and get the hosted zone information for the Route 52. And we have set it up to kind of host this with the lab Demisto domain that we have. And being able to configure all of these integration, all of the new instance configuration into the lab Demisto domain. And things like create the elastic IP. This is the public IP that our instance has got, which we can actually go try and see if it is available or not. So we can check that later. And then other details like go create instance, associate the Route 53 record, which is the domain name. So we are able to give it a domain name as well. And then being able to get the elastic IP associated with that domain name. And all of this is done very, very, very easily, completely automated. So if you see all these almost 10 plus steps that you would need to do every time you want to take such an action, or any of the custom workflows could be automated easily. So not only these AWS actions could be built together in a playbook. Let's say you want to go ahead and ad hoc get some information from a system about AWS, any of these services. You can do that as well from the Demisto war room concept. So this is the chat ops concept. Let's say you want to actually go attach a volume. So you can say AWS EC2 attach a volume, give it the device name, instance ID, volume ID from EBS, and attach a volume. And this could help you interactively do any of the commands as you go along, whether you are investigating or whether you are actually taking an operations action of some sort. Similarly, let's say you want to delete an S3 bucket. You can take an action. And these are all available either in playbooks or interactively via chat ops commands. So that's what we had. I mean, this was a quick demo of all of the AWS integration capabilities that Demisto has. The new integrations are added all the time. So we have 6 or 7 AWS service integrations. The new integrations will be available on an ongoing basis every 2 weeks. But the key things to highlight again, we integrate with AWS completely keyless manner so that you don't need to provide any of the service keys, passwords, any of those things. And then being able to run through these playbooks in an automated manner for different set of security scenarios by collecting data from guard duty and then responding back to any of the AWS security concerns can be automated. Thank you for listening.